this session, we are looking at the 4th chapter of the book of Galatians. Now, remember that Paul had established the churches of Galatia on his first missionary journey. He revisited the churches on his second and third journeys, and then sometimes after that, the Judaizing teachers entered into the regions of Galatia, and they were teaching the believers there that in order to be saved, you had to be circumcised, and you had to observe the law in order to be right with God in your life with Him. Now, Paul was not able to return to the regions of Galatia at that time, so under the inspiration of the Spirit of God, he addressed this epistle to the believers. And after greeting them, he said, I stand amazed and I just marvel at the fact that you so quickly were transferred away from Him that called you in the grace of Christ unto another gospel of a different kind, which is not another of the same kind. But I know that there's those who trouble you. They desire to change and pervert and corrupt the gospel of Christ. But I want you to know that if anyone, even I, or anyone in my party, or an angel from heaven came down and presented any other gospel unto you other than the gospel of grace that we preached unto you, let them be anathema. That is, let them be under the judgment of God. Now, brethren, I want to assure you that the gospel that I preach was not according to men, because when the Lord saved me and appointed me to preach the word, I did not go to Jerusalem to see the others who were apostles before me to get the message from them, but the Lord took me into Arabia, and there by special revelation from Christ I was taught the gospel message, and I preached that message for 14 years. 17 years rather, 14 years and then 3 years after that. So it was 17 years I was preaching that message before I ever went to Jerusalem to that church council, which is recorded in Acts chapter 15. And I laid out before the brethren there the gospel that I'd been preaching all those years. Then I took James, Peter, and John aside and laid it out before them privately for their consideration, and they added no new requirements to me. They said, God bless you, Paul, you have the same message we've been preaching. Go out and preach it, except he had a special ministry to the Gentiles, while Peter had a special apostleship to the Jews. Now, I'm not the one that frustrates the grace of God. It's these Judaizing teachers. Because if righteousness could be by the law, then Christ died needlessly. It was all in vain and needless thing that He did by dying, if it could be done that way. Oh, you foolish Galatians! Who's cast a spell upon you? Who bewitched you that you should not obey the truth, before whose eyes Jesus Christ was portrayed as being crucified? Now I would ask you these questions. Was it by the works of the law or by the hearing of faith that you received the Spirit of God? Having begun in the Spirit, are you now made perfect by the flesh? No, it's just like Abraham believed God and it was counted to him for righteousness, so it's you. It is by faith also. Now, I want you to understand that anyone who places themselves under the law has placed themselves under a curse. For it's written, cursed is everyone that continueth not in all of the things of the law to do them. But Christ hath redeemed us from the curse of the law, having become a curse for us, because it's also written in the Old Testament Scriptures that cursed of God is everyone that hangeth upon a tree. And when Christ hung there upon that cross of a tree, He took the curse of all of our sin upon Him, and we were redeemed from it. But then, why was the law given? Why was it there? Why do we have the law? Well, he says it was added because of transgressions, and only for a period of time. What is that period of time? Till the seed, singular, should come, who is Christ, to whom the promise was made. Now, therefore, the law was our schoolmaster. It was our tutor, our teacher, our guardian unto Christ, that we might be justified by faith. And therefore, if you're Christ, then are you Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. Now in chapter 4, he continues by saying, Now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, differeth nothing from a servant or a bondslave. Now, a man may have bondslaves, and he may also have several children. And that son is just a child until he reaches a certain age that has been appointed by his father. And when that age arrives, then he becomes a son. And he did not have to wait until his father died to become an heir of what his dad had. But when he reaches that age that he is considered to be a full-grown son, whether the father said it at 16, 18, or whatever it was. At that period of time, he was joint owner of everything his dad had. Now, he says that the heir, although he's an heir of everything that his father may have, as long as he is a child, an infant, a little infant child, he differeth nothing from a bondslave or a servant. There's no difference. He owns no more. Though he be Lord of all. Although he's Lord of all of it, he doesn't have any of it. But he is under tutors and governors. Now, the word tutors and governors is actually guardians and stewards. Now, the child is immature, and he's an immature person, and he's one who must have restrictions put upon him. He must have things to direct him by restrictions, whereas an adult may govern his own actions. So he says here that the tutors and guardians he's under to guide him, and the tutor is the guardian of the child's person. He must take care of that child. He cares for him, he guides him, he directs him, teaches, instructs him, and so forth. And then governors. He is the steward of the child's property. He has authority to govern that property until that child becomes of age that is appointed by the father. Now, he says, even so we're just like that. He's using that as an illustration of us as believers. When we were children, when we were little infants, we were in bondage under the elements or the elementary teachings or rules or ordinances of the world, which is of the law. Now, before our salvation, that's the way we were. But when the fullness of the time was come, now the word time here is the Greek word chronon. You have basically two words in the Greek translated time, chronon and chiron. Chronon is the word from which we get chronology. It's a chronology of time as it passes in duration. But chiron speaks of an exact juncture in time. So he says, but when the fullness of the chronology of time was come, God sent forth his Son, made or born of a woman, made or born under the law. Now it was in the fullness of time, not before time, not after time, but right on time. When that time had come, God sent forth his Son, Jesus Christ, born of a woman, and having been made under the law. For what purpose? To redeem